Hey, welcome to the Dropship Podcast. Today is another Tactical Tuesday episode and kind of a fun thought experiment, I think, for John and I to do. We got asked a question. Neither one of us can remember who asked it, so I apologize. If it was you, thank you so much for the question. But it was around, if we had to start again, what would that look like? If we had to start basically at zero, what would that look like? And I think we could frame this a couple ways. Like, is this like literally zero? John and I have $0. We have our knowledge. How do we go make our first buck in order to do this? Or what does that look like? All right, we're starting all over at dropshipping, clear the deck, and we have to reassess how we're going to do this. How would we do it differently? I have some thoughts on that part of it, John. If you want to start way back of like, how would you actually go make a buck? I think, I certainly think that's relevant because maybe some people don't have the extra dollars to get started, even though you can get started in high ticket dropshipping for less than $500, as we've spoken about on this podcast in the past.
Yeah, look, I mean, honestly, if I was at $0 and I needed to start making money again, or I needed to start a new business again, I think firstly, dropshipping, high ticket dropshipping would still be my go-to from a business perspective. I mean, honestly, if I had absolutely $0 in my bank account and I needed to make some money, look, honestly, I would probably just go and mow someone's lawn. Speaking of what we were just speaking of, like I'd do whatever I could, borrow it, beg it, do something I don't really care about or I don't really like to get the money to start working on a new business. And that doesn't cost much. As we've said on this podcast before, you can start a high ticket dropshipping business with like $300, right? You can get it up and running off the ground. So that's literally what I do. I think I still think if I was going to go back into business at zero, high ticket dropshipping is definitely going to be the first place I would start because it's still the most cost-effective way to start making money from a business.
Yeah, look, if you need to make money, I'm with you, John. Like you're either going to go mow some lawns, or look, you and I both have kids, and we could use our kids to our advantage here. If it's summer, it's summer in Wisconsin. It's hot here. There's kids on corners selling lemonade and water. If I went out and sat out there with a table that said water is $4, no one's paying me a cent. If I put my twin 7-year-olds out there, they're going to sell a lot of water, right? And so, it might sound bad, but like you have to ask this question: how bad do you want it? So if we're going back to zero and I got to make some money fast, I'm doing whatever it takes. I don't care. I'm mowing the lawn. If it's winter, I'm shoveling driveways. I'm doing whatever it takes to get that money started. And unlike you, I'm not borrowing. I don't ever want to have to owe someone. I'll owe an entity.
No.
I have no problem leveraging debt, but I'm not borrowing money from anyone.
Yeah. Look, or just go and get a job, right? I mean, we'll there's nothing wrong with having a job. I don't want to, right? I don't want to do that again because it's been honestly a long time since I've had a traditional job. But I mean, I got stuff that people would pay me to do, right? I could go and make a little bit of money, enough to get a business up and running and start it again, and then quit that job and do my business again. So, like, there's all sorts of ways. I mean, if you really want to make,
I got a point. So I want to interrupt. Like, you made a great point right there that I want people to think about. So if we went back to zero, but we get to keep our skills, what skills do we have and why do we have them? We have skills because we attempted something. We went out and learned, and even if we failed, we learned some stuff. So if you let's imagine you're in this boat and you tried some high ticket dropshipping and your store didn't work out. Did you learn how to run Google ads decently? Did you learn how to do a little bit of SEO? You're going to learn a lot of things that people will pay money for. So due to the experience I have, maybe I don't have to go to the children for this. I would just literally go reach out to local businesses until I got a yes. Like, hey, I would like to acquire leads for you in whether that's through Facebook or whether that's setting up a local business for them. There are skills that I have learned by doing what I have done that are marketable and people would pay money for. And so I think just you saying that made that come up. I would go around town in my tiny little town, and probably by the end of the day, I'd have a few $1,000 and some work to do. Don't get me wrong. There'd be some services to provide, but I think easily with the skills that I've learned along this journey, I could pull that off and get some cash moving quickly. And then I don't think I'd want to scale that. I'm not a big services guy. I just don't want to have to answer to anyone ever again. And so, that might get some stuff going initially. And then I would use that money to start a high ticket dropshipping store, which I do think is like the easiest and fastest way to, I don't want to say wealth, but to cash flow and with very little risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, another thing to say, like you said, how much do you want it? Like, I mean, I think that's important. Like, I mean, if this was really what you wanted to do, like there are definitely ways that you can come up with to put enough money together to get back into the game. And yeah, you may not like them, but I think what I see so many people doing is they avoid the things they don't like. I mean, they could get it done. So I would just go and do something that nobody else wants to do. Honestly, that's usually the easiest way to make some money, is to find something nobody else wants to do. Just go, hey, it's gonna be shit, but I'll just go and do it. Someone's going to give you money to do that. Go and start your business.
Why do you think that is, John? So like, you know me, I love to dive into some mindset. Is it like worrying what other people are going to think if they see you for that split second, doing something? Like, if I can imagine you go to someone's yard full of dog shit and you're like, hey, for $50, I'll pick up all the dog shit in your yard. Someone's going to pay you that $50 because picking up dog shit in your yard sucks.
Yeah.
But is it like you're embarrassed to look like that? Or like, what is the mindset there of like, I don't know how to teach wanting it bad enough. Like, Tony Robbins says, you either are chasing pleasure or running away from pain, right? And then you're weighing that. Is the pain of someone seeing you picking up the dog shit in someone's yard more than the pleasure of starting your own business and potentially finding freedom in your life? I don't know what that is. It's hard for me to go back and remember how scared I was. And I know I was scared. I definitely was. I was definitely scared in the beginning, but it's hard for me to go back now and try to remember what fears I had. Was it, I don't think it was a fear of failure for me, but I'm not sure exactly what it was either.
Yeah, look, I think it's kind of like, I mean, the pain of that situation, I think in that particular example that you gave, which is quite a visceral example, but it's a decent example, right? Like, I think that a lot of that is status, right? Both what you think of yourself, because as a society, we tend to think of somebody who does the jobs that nobody else wants to do as like a low person, right? So you probably have that rolling around in your head, and that's your self-talk. But yeah, you're probably worried, thinking, well, the person whose dog shit I'm picking up, they're going to think I'm some sort of scumbag because that's all I can do, sort of thing. And, I think that's an unfortunate way that we think at this point in time of our civilization. I don't think it's helpful for anybody that people think that way. But I think people do think that way, both internally and externally of others. And I think that feeds a lot into it. I don't know that it feeds all of it into it. But I think the other thing is as well, like, if I'm going back to zero and I'm saying, well, I know where I've been and I desperately want to get back there, I've experienced it. So it's really easy for me to know what it actually feels like to be there and what I'm missing out on. So for me to do anything to get back there is actually, I think, easier than somebody who has never been there and is just starting out for the first time and going, well, I don't have enough money or whatever to make it work. And we might say, well, just do whatever it takes. But I think it's harder for that person to say, I know what the end goal is actually going to be like, or I don't even know that I can get there yet. So is it worth me doing whatever it takes right now to get there? Whereas if you've been there and you know what it's like, you've experienced the life maybe that you wanted to have, and for some reason or another that went away, but you want to get back there. I think, doing whatever it takes is easier because you can do it and you know what it's like to have done it. And so you know what you're missing out on, kind of thing. And I think a lot of people, it's kind of around sort of, the whole vision exercise and that sort of thing. Like, a lot of people who are just at the beginning struggle to like that. They kind of know what they want, like whether it's more time, more money, all of that sort of thing. But like the actual experience of that they've never had before, it is hard to set that against doing the thing that you don't want to do.
And you got to believe it's possible, right? I think in the beginning, that's the biggest factor. Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. And I do believe that that's the biggest limiting factor in everything, is like, do you believe this is actually possible? And the moment you say it is, you're probably going to start taking different actions than if you have convinced yourself that, you're either not worthy of it or it's not possible in general. But let's dive in. Yeah. Like, let's imagine who's ever listening to this, you can go figure out how to make some money, right? Whether that's putting on a credit card, whether that's, picking up dog shit, whether that's, pimping out your children to a lemonade stand to make you some money, or whether that's going to get a job, whatever it is, like you can figure this out. If you can't figure out how to go make, and I believe you said this before, John, if you can't figure out how to go make $500 or $1,000 to get started, you're never going to be successful in this, in business in general, right? You have to have that like innate hustle. You have to have that drive to go get shit done. So let's assume everyone listening to this is part of that crew. I know there's thousands of you listening. Thank you so much. You're part of that crew. You're going to go do whatever it takes to get started. And they want us to answer the question, if you had to start over right now, how would you do it differently? I took some notes here in the spreadsheet, John. I'm happy to go first or go second, however you want to do this. But like, I have some different thoughts of how I would be different than I was in the past. And I was successful in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I you know, with the benefit of hindsight, if I had to, if I was starting from zero in dropshipping, and like as we said, that would be what I would do. So then, if I'm doing that, there are definitely things I would do differently to get back to where I was faster than obviously all the stuff I did in the beginning, because I made a ton of mistakes, right? And as I'm sure you did, and you know, going back to zero, yeah, could definitely cut down a lot of time. And a lot of probably, for me, in my case, a lot of wasted money, frankly.
Yeah, I think.
But what do you got? What do you got on the sheet?
It serves a purpose. Yeah, it serves a purpose. Like all of those mistakes are like, I had to learn, right? Like
they do.
We reference, our children riding bikes, right? Like they didn't know how to do it at first, but it served a purpose for them to fall over and then learn and then wobble and then land on their feet. Like this is all part of the process. And sometimes it's hard to think like that all of everything we're trying to accomplish is a process, and you're never going to go 0 to 100, right? You have to take step 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Anyway. All right. So that aside, like here's how I would think about this differently is I think, so the first business I ever built was the 3dprinterguy.com. I actually bought it from a guy because I was scared to call suppliers. I'm sure you've heard my story. If you haven't, go check that out. Episode 15 or something like that. You can go hear my whole story. I didn't know anything about 3D printers. I thought the concept was cool in 2015, but I didn't know anything about 3D printers. And so I didn't really have a genuine interest in like how cool they were, or maybe I kind of wanted one. I don't even know. And I think if I was going to do this again, I would build in a niche like that I actually like love, like truly, truly love this niche. For me, I love baseball, right? And so I can imagine building something around baseball. Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of too many high ticket products in the baseball niche, but like there's other things that I love as well. And the reason I would do something I love, and so this is why I encourage people to do something they love, is because every single day, you're going to need to do something to move your business forward. If you're not growing, you're dying, and that's a true statement, right? And so you're going to have to do something. It doesn't need to be a lot. If you're working a job right now, you don't really do a whole lot every single day, but you're doing something every single day. And so you're going to have to do that in your business. And if it's something I love, I'm going to wake up and want to work on it. I'm going to be thinking about it 24/7. I do think that's like the entrepreneurial curse anyway. I can't turn it off. I don't know why anybody would want to, but I'd rather not be able to turn it off about something baseball related than I would about 3D printers, right? And so I have a few more notes on why I would want to do something I love. So first is want to work on it. Second is I'm going to want to consume about it. And so when I'm on Twitter, I'm reading baseball stuff or, e-commerce stuff. If I'm on any other app, it's usually around something baseball. If I'm watching TV, literally the only thing I watch is baseball. And in the off season, maybe my wife and I will watch a show or something like that. If I'm consuming, if I'm reading anything, if I might be looking at fan graphs or looking at, someone's WAR or their BABIP or some weird, analytic stats, because I love baseball, right? And so if you were building around a niche that you love, you're going to go consume content around it as well. You're going to want to be an authority in it, right? You're going to go consume from the authorities, which will turn you into authority. You're going to want to be an authority in it. You're going to want to build relationships inside of that industry, right? So in the 3D printing industry, I would imagine there was 3D printer influencers out there. I had no interest in connecting with those people. Whereas, given the opportunity to connect with, Mike Trout or any of the big names in baseball, I would love to connect with those people or connect with some of the mega influencers online, like Fuzzy or Giraffe Neck Mark, or these names probably don't make any sense to someone who doesn't like baseball, but they make sense to me, right? And so I'm going to want to build those relationships in the industry rather than go take a course on how to cold email some publication in hopes that they'll niche edit their article and put a link back to me, I'm going to actually want to talk to that person because I love baseball. They love baseball. We're going to talk about baseball all the time, right? So, and then on top of that, I actually want the products for myself. Depending on what you're in, you're likely going to want to use those products, which is a huge bonus. One, because you get a big ass discount on those products. So you're going to get a discount actually getting them into your ecosphere, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. Or, I hope to have some of the stuff behind me here in this warehouse in the business I'm running currently. And then that makes content really easy, right? Then I can go create unique photos for my website that no one else has. I can create unique YouTube videos. I can create unique TikToks or Reels or YouTube Shorts. I can actually write about the products or have someone write about it and input my opinion because I have it right in front of me. I actually use the thing. The content becomes easy at that point. Becoming an authority becomes easy at that point because I love this stuff. I use this stuff. It's actually something I can put my hands on, which is not always the case in dropshipping. And it doesn't need to be the case. Again, I built and sold a 3D printer site. Didn't really know anything about 3D printers. I've helped with standing desks. I have one, but I don't really know anything about standing desks. I've helped in the golf industry. I've helped in the tiny house industry. I definitely don't want to live in a tiny house or be poor or like live on the fire method of 40K. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Let alone I like living in a city. I don't like living in the country. So like I don't think you need to do this. This is just what I would choose to do. And then the other thing, I would just say, SEO has been the biggest lever I've ever pulled in a business, and being able to rank is a fun proposition. So if I wasn't going to build in something I love, I would go do keyword research, which I think we're going to have an upcoming episode on keyword research where John and I can kind of break this down. But I would find an industry that has medium to high keyword volume, ideally high, but you're probably not going to find this, but medium to high keyword volume. People are actually searching for these things, but there's not really anyone out there serving this industry. And if I found that would lead me away from something I love. Now, if I could find that in something I love, this would be like the holy grail for me. But if it was outside of something I love, we'll just call it 3D printers. Let's say 3D printers is really ripe for the pickings in SEO, and it has decent volume. That would probably be one that I would lean in towards as well, just because I know what I'm doing there. I've really dialed that in, and the penetration would be fast, and also the rewards would be huge because there's no one there. Getting to number 1 or number 2 in Google pays real dividends, and so if I saw an opportunity like that, I think I'd go after it.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah.
What would you do, John?
And I think some of that lines up with what I would do. Some of it's probably I think about a little bit differently. I think if I was going back to zero and starting again and identifying what I wanted to sell and who I wanted to sell it to, I would focus very much on finding the who I was going to sell it to, and like,
I should have said that.
But really finding a good who. So for me, I'm a little bit different to you in that I don't think I don't mind so much if I'm personally into it, because I think once again, to get back to where I want to be or wanted to be in this case, I'd be happy selling anything, right? But I would be much happier selling anything to the right person. So finding a who and a group of customers that I think would be, over the moon to discover the business that I would create and who I could serve really well and have a really definable, genuine interest that my business could serve and provide, help them find products to do that thing they love doing. So whether that's you, the baseball fan, or, you, the golf player, or, me and whatever I love to do as a person, like, I think that's what I would zero in on, which I didn't zero in on at all. I didn't even think about it that way in the beginning. The few times I started a high ticket dropshipping business. So I think for me, going back to zero now, I would really find that. And yeah, absolutely, I would have to learn about it and all of that. I mean, I think, once again, going back to that idea of doing whatever it takes, I personally don't have a problem with becoming familiar with something that I don't necessarily have an interest in, if it's going to help me build a really good business, right? I've always been happy to do that personally, and I don't personally find any challenges with that. So, but I think really building my business around that ideal customer, rather than just, so what a lot of high ticket dropshipping people do when they're starting out is they try to build a business that's going to make them money. And that's the primary driver behind what they're thinking about is, how can I make money, right? Which, fine, right? You want to make money. Yeah, of course. You're running a business. Part of the objective is to make some money. It has to make money or it's not a business. Yes. But I think that kind of sets you up in a way that can often lead down a path where your business is much harder than it needs to be, because you're looking at it through the light of what you can get out of it. And that can lead you to picking products that are not great, to not having any definable market, because all you're looking at is, oh, will these products make me money? Can I make money off these products? Rather than thinking about, can I build something that people are going to love, that a group of people are going to love and rave about? And, when you come at it that way and you have that focus, everything gets easier. The marketing gets easier. Dealing with your customers gets easier. Spending money to grow your business gets easier. And so that's certainly where I would focus there in the beginning is really building a business in the right place. And then I think the second thing, and where I do very closely agree with you, is getting stuck into actually being an authority in the space and building, an SEO system and all of that sort of thing would be a much bigger focus for me than it was. I mean, ads are great and I would still run some ads, but man, in the beginning when I did it the first times around, I wasted so much money on ads, right? Because I thought that was how you grew. That was the only way to grow your business, was to get more ad traffic, paid ad traffic, like spend money. And, at that time, I wasn't good enough at running ads yet, wasn't practiced enough. And so I wasted a whole bunch of money, which set me back, quite a decent period of time, I think, looking at overall. Or I could have invested that money into other things that over time would have provided a greater return. So if I had spent even half the money I had spent, producing content or doing all of that sort of thing in my early businesses, then I think the returns from those businesses would have been better, sooner over time.
Yeah, I got to touch on point number one, because I don't know how I missed that one. Quick plug for Patreon, patreon.com/Dropship Podcast. There's an episode called Ben's Big L, where I went in chasing the dollars and bought a business, and oh my gosh, do I never want to serve that type of person ever again. And so, I've been in some businesses where the people behind the business, even if I'm not interested in that, those are easier people to inform, to make sales, to deal with in general. And so, sign up. If you sign up for Patreon, you can get all the back episodes for free. You can just binge all you want, and you're only charged when John and I put out a new episode. So if you go sign up at patreon.com/Dropship Podcast, you can go check out Ben's Big L if you want to, and cancel before we put another episode out. You won't have to pay a cent. So if you want to check that out, I'm a little sad that I didn't think of the human there, John, because it's not even like, is there a definable market? It's like, do you want to deal with this person every single day for the rest of your life, or even until you outsource it to a customer service agent who's going to complain to you about the same things that bothered you, and then now you're just hearing it secondhand rather than hearing it firsthand, and you also know that your employee's miserable. And so really think about who's buying these products, and like, do you want to serve that type of person for a long time? Maybe you don't.
So definitely, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I think so. I think SEO I'm going to build into a lot, and also just all of the sort of more back end stuff like email marketing, retargeting, all that sort of thing. I think I'd put a lot more effort into that earlier if I was starting again than what I did my first time around all those years ago, because I think there's a lot of extra profit and money that was on the table that I probably missed, which would have led me to, once again, being more profitable in a shorter amount of time. If I had have taken advantage of those sort of things as well, rather than just relying on first time customers all the time. Do you know what I mean? So,
I'm a bit of a perfectionist too. So like, I'm kind of doing this with a business. It's perfect. It's literally as close to perfect as I've ever built a business. And I kind of like that. It makes me feel good. It's not like I see, oh, fuck, I need to fix this, or I need to go after this, or I need to do that. And so like, I'd probably lean into the perfectionist side, which is not good in the beginning, by the way. If you're a perfectionist and you're waiting for everything to line up perfectly before you take action, not good in the beginning. But once you have some experience and you have some, income rolling in, then you can kind of focus on your perfectionist over in this little corner and then continue, moving forward. And so, I don't know if I'd recommend that for everyone, but it's been nice to lean into that, into the high ticket dropshipping business that I'm building right now currently. And so, it's nice. It's nice to get it right, and again, not have a laundry list of to-dos all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, cool, man. That's fun.
Is that it? Is that the end of the start from zero, or should we come up with more hustle ideas for the beginning? I know you like the dog food idea.
No. No more of that. No more of that.
All right. I'm curious too, if you're listening to this and you have built a business, where would you come back and start at zero? I know there's a lot of people in our Facebook group who are successful. In fact, I want to shout out a little thread here. We had someone posted in here that just says, hey, I hope this is okay to ask. Who in this group is not one of the admins are currently successful using this model and generating a profit? And we had quite a few people reach out. So, shout out to John Murphy. He's been on the show before. If you want to hear John Murphy's story, scroll back in your feed, check out John. He says raises his hand, and almost all of us. Kellen Ambrose, his story was on here as well. He said he just bought a house with his dropshipping profits, which is incredible. Keith Ritchie said same thing, been dropshipping full-time since mid-2014. If it works if you work it. Alan Phillips says life-changing business for me, ups and downs for sure, but also growth as a human. So a lot of great comments in here from folks who have really taken this to the next level, including one that I kind of want to shout out just because it was written so well. Tris Coffin said, also running a successful high-ticket dropship biz here and spinning up a couple others based in Australia. As John mentioned, there is no answer to what the best/most profitable niche. There are probably hundreds of niches. All can be lucrative. If the niche meets the criteria and is viable, profitable comes down to your execution of marketing, drive, overheads, etc. Not a clear-cut answer. The question is, how strong is your motivation to want it? I have lost count of the number of times I almost gave up, couldn't do it, wasn't working, shit going wrong. It takes a community like this one, mentorship and friendships to pull/push you through to success. It might take 1 year, it might take 5 years. The journey is 100% worth it to change the rest of your life. And so, shout out to Tris, wonderful writing. And I couldn't put it any better as far as like answering that question of, who's been successful in this group and why. And so, thank you to Tris, but I'd love to hear from those same people or anyone who's done this before. What would you do if you had to start at zero, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what would you do differently if you had to start over at zero?
Yeah. And Tris has also been on this show as well. So you can hear Tris's episode earlier, Freedom Friday episode with Tris and Blake, who also commented on that post and is doing quite well. Yeah.
Nice.
Happy days.
Sweet. See y'all next week.